Sometimes, one simple question can follow you long after you walk away. And that is exactly what happened to Emily that quiet evening. It started with a moment she never planned for. Emily had stopped by the small community center after work. She only meant to drop off some old books for the charity sale. Nothing more. Nothing dramatic. Just a simple task before going home. She pushed open the glass door and stepped into the warm, bright room. The place smelled like coffee and wooden shelves. People were chatting softly, arranging tables, folding flyers, and getting things ready for the weekend event. Emily smiled politely at a few familiar faces. Then she saw him. Noah. He was standing near the back table, lifting a box with an easy smile that always seemed ready. He was the kind of person who made any space feel calm, just by being in it. Emily didn't know him well. Only a few short conversations over the past year, mostly during community events. But he always remembered her name. And he always spoke to her with a gentle warmth that made her feel seen. She walked over to drop off her books. Noah noticed her immediately. "Emily," he said, with that soft tone that felt like morning sunlight. "You came by after work." She nodded. "Just bringing a few things for the sale." He took the books from her hands. Their fingers brushed for half a second. It was a simple touch, but it surprised her how clearly she felt it. Noah looked through the titles with a grin. "You always donate the nicest books. People love your choices." Emily laughed lightly. "They're just old novels I've read too many times." "Still," he said, meeting her eyes. "You give them with heart. That matters." For some reason, his words stayed with her more than they should have. They talked for a few minutes. Nothing deep. Nothing dramatic. Just easy conversation about the weather, the event, and the small things that fill ordinary days. Yet Emily felt something different. Something warm. Something she had not felt in a long time. As the room grew louder and busier, she stepped back. "I should get going," she said. "I didn't plan to stay long." Noah nodded, though his expression softened in a way she did not expect. "Before you leave," he said quietly, "can I ask you something?" She paused. His tone made her heart slow for a moment. "Sure," she said. "What is it?" Noah looked at her like he was choosing his words carefully. But before he spoke, someone called his name from across the room. He turned for a second to answer them, then looked back at her. And that was when he asked it. A simple question. A soft one. But one that hit her deeper than she expected. "Emily, why do you always walk away so quickly?" She blinked. Of all the things he could have asked, she had not expected that. "I walk away," she repeated. He nodded, his expression gentle, not accusing. "Every time we talk, you leave fast. Like you're afraid to stay longer." Emily froze for a moment. No one had ever noticed that about her. Not even her closest friends. She tried to laugh it off. "Oh, it's nothing. I'm just busy, that's all." Noah looked at her with quiet honesty. "I don't think that's the real reason." His words felt like a soft knock on a door she had kept closed for years. Emily felt her heart tighten. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to explain that she was careful with people. Careful with her time. Careful with her heart. She didn't know how to tell him that she avoided moments that felt too warm, too open, too comfortable, because those were the moments that could hurt the most. So instead, she looked away and nodded slowly. "I should get home," she whispered. Noah didn't stop her. He didn't push. He simply gave a small, understanding smile. "Take care, Emily." She turned to leave. Her steps were steady. Her breathing was calm. But her mind was not calm at all. Because his question stayed with her. Not loud. Not heavy. Just soft, but impossible to ignore. "Why do you always walk away so quickly?" By the time she reached her car, she still heard it. By the time she drove home, it lingered. And by the time she lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, it played again and again. She didn't know what Noah truly meant by it. But she knew one thing for certain. His question had opened something inside her. Something she wasn't ready to face. Not yet. Still. She felt her heart leaning toward the answer. And that frightened her more than anything. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Some questions feel small at first, until they begin echoing in every quiet moment. That is exactly what happened to Emily the next morning. She woke up earlier than usual. The soft light of early morning slipped through her curtains. The world outside was calm and slow. But her mind was not. She lay still, staring at the ceiling, thinking about one thing only. Noah's voice. "Why do you always walk away so quickly?" She tried to push the memory aside, but it kept returning. Not sharp. Not painful. Just gentle, but persistent. Emily sat up and rubbed her eyes. She told herself it didn't matter. It was only a small comment from someone she barely knew. But deep down, she knew better. It wasn't the question itself. It was the way he asked it. Soft. Curious. Almost as if he saw something in her she didn't want anyone to notice. She didn't like being understood that easily. Not by anyone. And especially not by him. Emily got ready for the day, trying to shake the feeling. Coffee. A simple breakfast. A quiet drive to work. But everything seemed strangely slower, like her thoughts had extra weight. At her office, she smiled at co-workers, answered emails, finished tasks, yet Noah's words kept drifting back like a song she couldn't turn off. By late afternoon, she finally admitted it to herself. She wanted to talk to him again. Not because she had an answer. Not because she owed him anything. But because something about the moment felt unfinished. Still, she didn't plan on seeing him soon. The next event at the community center was days away. Or at least, that's what she thought. Around early evening, her phone buzzed with a message from her friend Mia. "Are you coming to the planning meeting tonight at 7? Emily frowned. She had forgotten all about it. A small meeting. Short. Mostly logistical stuff. She typed back quickly. "I wasn't planning to." "Why?" Mia replied almost instantly. "Noah asked if you'd be there." Emily's breath caught. She stared at the message for a long moment. She didn't know how to answer. Of course Mia noticed her silence and wrote again. "Relax. He just said it casually. I think he wants more volunteers tonight." Emily tried to steady her breathing. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe Noah asked about everyone. But she knew already Noah didn't speak without intention. He was gentle, yes, but he wasn't careless. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Should she go? A big part of her said no. Stay home. Avoid confusion. Avoid feeling anything she wasn't ready to feel. But another part, quiet, hopeful, and very new, whispered yes. And she didn't know which part to listen to. Emily stood in her small living room for nearly 10 minutes, holding her phone, staring at the clock on the wall. 6:22 p.m. If she left soon, she would make it in time. She closed her eyes and took a slow breath. Maybe she didn't owe him an explanation. Maybe she didn't need to prepare answers. Maybe she only needed to show up and see what happened. Before she could talk herself out of it, she typed a reply to Mia. "I'll be there." She grabbed her jacket and stepped out the door. Her heart was steady, but there was a soft flutter under the surface, a feeling she didn't want to admit was excitement. When she reached the community center, the sun had already set. Warm lights glowed through the windows. Voices carried through the entrance. As she walked inside, she felt a small shiver. Not from the cold. From uncertainty. The room was only half full. A few people stood around a long table, talking quietly. But Noah wasn't there. Emily's chest tightened slightly. Had she imagined everything? Had Mia misunderstood him? Before she could search the room again, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Emily." She turned. Noah stood near the doorway she had just entered through. He looked a little surprised. And more than a little happy. "You came," he said quietly. Emily nodded, trying to hide the way her heart reacted to his tone. "Just wanted to help out." But Noah didn't look convinced. Not even a little. He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to lower his voice. "I didn't think you would," he said softly. "But I'm glad you did." Emily looked down, unsure what to say. unsure what she even felt. Noah hesitated for a second. Then he added something she did not expect. Emily, about yesterday. There's a reason I asked you that question. Her breath caught. His voice was calm, but his eyes held something deeper. Something she wasn't ready to hear. She opened her mouth to reply, but before a single word came out, someone called Noah's name across the room, pulling his attention away. He gave her a quick, apologetic smile. "We'll talk in a moment," he said. Then he walked toward the others. Emily stood there, frozen. Her heart now louder than the room around her. A reason? What reason? And why did he look at her like that? She didn't know the answer. But she knew this. Whatever Noah wanted to say, it was not small. And it might change everything. Sometimes the quiet moments between two people say more than any long conversation. That is what Emily felt as she watched Noah walk away to help someone across the room. She stood near the entrance, her hands lightly gripping her jacket. She tried to steady her breathing, but her heart kept moving faster than her thoughts. Why did he say there was a reason behind his question? What reason could he possibly have? Emily wasn't used to moments like this. She wasn't used to someone paying attention to the small things she tried to hide. She wasn't used to someone seeing her so clearly. She stepped farther into the room and took a seat at the long table where the meeting would start soon. People chatted softly around her. Papers rustled. Pens clicked. Everything felt normal except her. A few minutes later, Noah walked over and sat across from her. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at her with that calm, steady expression that made her feel both safe and nervous at the same time. "You're sitting far away," he said gently. "Are you avoiding me already?" Emily's face warmed. She shook her head quickly. "No, this was the only open seat." He smiled a little. "Emily, there were at least 4 empty chairs next to me." She looked down, embarrassed. He wasn't teasing. He was noticing. Again. Before she could reply, Mia arrived and sat beside her. "Good, you made it," Mia whispered with a grin. "I told you it would be a short meeting." Emily nodded, grateful for the brief distraction. But she still felt Noah's attention, even when she wasn't looking at him. The meeting began. People discussed schedules, volunteer roles, and small plans for the weekend event. Emily tried to focus, tried to listen, tried to contribute. But every time she glanced up, Noah was already watching her. Not in a strange way. Not in a heavy way. Just in a quiet, thoughtful way, like he was waiting for a moment when he could finally talk to her properly. When the meeting ended, everyone slowly gathered their things and drifted out of the room. Mia left early, waving goodbye and promising to call Emily later. Soon, only a few people remained, cleaning up papers and folding extra chairs. Emily stood near the wall, unsure whether to leave or stay. She didn't want to seem like she was waiting for Noah. But she also couldn't forget his unfinished words from earlier. A few seconds later, he walked toward her. And this time, no one interrupted. "Emily," he said, stopping a few steps away. "Can we talk now?" Her heart tightened. But she nodded. He gestured toward a quieter corner near the windows. They walked over together. The night outside was dark and calm. Streetlights glowed softly. Cars passed now and then, but inside the room, everything felt still. Noah leaned against the windowsill and looked at her with gentle seriousness. "Yesterday," he said slowly, "I asked you why you always walk away so fast." Emily swallowed. "Yes. I remember. I wasn't trying to push you," he continued. I noticed something." Her breath caught again. "What did you notice?" Noah hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You're warm when you talk," he said softly. "You're open. Kind. You listen. You laugh. And for a moment, it feels like you enjoy being there." Emily lowered her eyes, unsure where this was going. But then, Noah added, "Right when it feels like the conversation is settling into something real, you leave. Quickly. Every time." Emily felt her chest tighten. He wasn't wrong. She did that with people, without even noticing. She didn't like getting too close. She didn't like the feeling of someone getting too close to her. I'm not judging you, Noah said gently. I'm just trying to understand. Emily looked up slowly. Understand what? She whispered. He held her gaze, steady and patient. Understand whether you walk away because you're busy, or because you're scared. The word scared hit harder than she expected. Not in a painful way. In an honest way. She crossed her arms lightly, as if shielding herself. I don't know, she said quietly. It's just how I am. Noah nodded. I believe that. But I also think there's more to it. Emily felt her throat tighten. She wanted to argue. She wanted to explain. She wanted to tell him he was reading too much into things. But she couldn't. Because deep down, she knew he was right. And that scared her more than anything. Noah took a small step closer, not too close, just enough that she could hear the warmth in his voice. Emily, I asked that question because I like talking to you. Because I want you to stay longer. Even a little longer. Her breath stilled. He said it simply. Honestly. Without pressure. Without pushing for anything more. And somehow, that made it feel even heavier. Emily didn't know what to say. Didn't know what she felt. Didn't know how to stand there without her heart showing. Noah seemed to sense her overwhelm. He softened his tone. You don't have to say anything right now, he said. I just wanted you to know the truth. Emily nodded slowly, though her thoughts were anything but steady. Before she could gather her words, a volunteer across the room called for Noah's help. He gave her an apologetic smile. I'll be right back, he said. Then he walked away again. This time, Emily didn't feel relieved. She felt something else. Something warm. Something uncertain. Something she did not know how to name. But she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't ready to walk away. Not tonight. Some moments don't ask for big decisions. They just ask you not to run. That was the quiet challenge Emily felt that night. She stood near the windows, watching Noah help stack a few chairs across the room. His movements were calm and easy, like he belonged everywhere he went. And for the first time, she realized something simple. He wasn't trying to pull her closer. He was just trying not to let her drift away. Emily's heart softened at that thought. She wasn't used to people noticing the small parts of her. She wasn't used to someone caring enough to ask why she always stepped back. And now that Noah had said what he felt, she felt something shift inside her. He walked back toward her after a few minutes, brushing dust off his hands. Sorry about that, he said with an easy smile. I didn't expect tonight to be this busy. Emily shook her head. It's okay. Noah looked at her for a moment, studying her expression carefully without making her uncomfortable. You seem quiet, he said softly. More than usual. Emily let out a small breath. Just thinking, she answered. He nodded, not pushing her to explain. They stood together in the quiet corner, the room around them slowly emptying. Only 2 volunteers remained, chatting softly near the front door. The lights were warm. The air felt calm. After a moment, Noah leaned back against the windowsill again. Emily, he said, I hope I didn't overwhelm you earlier. She looked at him more directly this time. No, she said. You didn't overwhelm me. I just didn't expect you to notice so much. He gave a small smile. I notice you, he said gently. But not in a way that should scare you. Her heart moved at those words. Noah glanced toward the empty chair beside him. Would you sit for a moment? He asked. I want to tell you something, but only if you want to hear it. Emily hesitated. Sitting meant staying. Staying meant facing whatever came next. And for most of her life, she avoided exactly that. But tonight, something felt different. Something felt safe. She slowly walked over and took the chair. The moment she sat down, Noah's shoulders relaxed, almost like he'd been holding his breath without realizing it. Thank you, he said softly. Emily folded her hands in her lap, waiting. Noah watched her for a long, quiet second. Then he spoke. You're not distant because you don't care, he said. You're distant because you care too much. And caring scares you. Emily blinked. She didn't expect him to understand her that clearly. She tried to speak, but words didn't come out at first. How do you know that? She finally whispered. Noah thought for a moment. Because I used to be the same way, he said. I would keep space between myself and people who mattered. I thought it was safer. Thought it protected me. But all it did was make me feel alone. His honesty felt gentle, not heavy. Emily looked down, running her thumb over the edge of her sleeve. I don't want to get hurt again, she said quietly. He nodded slowly. I know. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask who hurt her. He didn't ask for details she didn't want to share. He just understood. Emily felt her chest loosen for the first time that evening. Noah continued, his voice steady and calm. I'm not asking for anything big from you, he said. I'm not asking for answers. I'm not asking for promises. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready for. He paused, letting the silence settle softly between them. I'm only asking for one small thing. Emily looked up. What's that? His eyes warmed. Don't walk away so fast. Her breath caught again. Not from fear this time, but from how gently he said it. How do I do that? She asked in a small voice. Noah gave a slow, thoughtful smile. Just stay a little longer when you want to run, he said. Even 1 minute longer. That's enough. Emily felt her heart tug toward him in a way she couldn't deny. She didn't know where this was going. She didn't know what future they would have. But for the first time in a long time, she wanted to try. She wanted to stay. Before she could speak, the last 2 volunteers waved goodbye as they left the building, leaving her and Noah alone in the quiet room. The air settled around them in a warm, still calm. Noah glanced at the clock. It's getting late, he said softly. I should lock up soon. Emily nodded and stood slowly. Noah walked her to the entrance, each step quiet but full of meaning. When they stopped near the door, he looked at her with a small, hopeful smile. Emily, thank you for staying tonight, he said. She met his eyes. I didn't want to leave. The smile he gave her then was softer than any she had seen from him. But just as she reached for the door, ready to step outside, Noah suddenly spoke again. Emily, before you go, can I ask you something else? Her hand froze on the door handle. Her heart lifted and tightened at the same time. She turned slowly. What is it? She whispered. Noah held her gaze with quiet seriousness. Are you staying because you feel obligated, or because you feel something too? Her breath stilled. She wasn't ready for that question. Not at all. And yet, her heart already knew the answer. Some questions don't need loud answers. They only need the courage to be felt. That was the moment Emily found herself standing in. Her hand rested on the door handle. The cool metal pressed against her skin. But she couldn't move. Not after Noah's question. Are you staying because you feel obligated, or because you feel something too? His voice had been soft. Careful. Not pushing. Not demanding. Just honest. Emily turned slowly to face him. Noah stood a few steps away, his hands in his pockets, his posture quiet but hopeful. His expression held no pressure, just gentle patience. For a moment, Emily could barely breathe. She had spent years avoiding moments like this. Moments where her heart stood too close to someone else's. Moments where she couldn't hide behind excuses or polite distance. But now, she didn't want to hide. She took a small step toward him. No, she said softly. I didn't stay because I felt obligated. His eyes warmed, but he waited for more. Emily looked down at her hands. I stayed because I wanted to, she whispered. And that scared me. A lot. Noah took a breath, slow and steady. He didn't move toward her. He gave her space to choose the next step. Emily's voice wavered, but she continued. When you asked me yesterday why I walk away so quickly, it stayed in my mind all night. I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking about you. Noah's expression softened, his eyes full of a quiet understanding. Emily finally met his gaze. And when you asked me tonight if I'm scared, you were right. I am scared. I've been scared for a long time. He nodded gently. Thank you for saying that. She looked at him, feeling her heart steady for the first time that evening. But I don't want fear to decide everything anymore, she said. Not with you. Noah's breath caught, only slightly. He didn't try to hide the way her words affected him. Emily took one more step closer. I feel something too, she said softly. That's why I stayed. A calm silence filled the room, warm, steady, meaningful. Noah's shoulders relaxed. His voice, when he finally spoke, was almost a whisper. Emily, that means more than you know. She let out a small, shaky breath. Relief mixed with nervousness. But it felt good. It felt right. Still, her voice wavered again as she asked, does this change anything between us? Noah smiled gently. It doesn't have to, he said. Not all at once. We don't need to rush. We don't need to figure everything out tonight. He stepped a little closer, not too close, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of his presence. All I want, he said softly, is to know that when we talk, you won't run away from me anymore. Emily gave a small, real smile. I'll try, she said. I can't promise I'll be perfect. But I'll try. That's more than enough, he said. They stood there for a quiet moment, both unsure what to say next, yet not wanting to end the night too soon. Finally, Noah glanced at the time. It's getting late, he said gently. You should get home. Emily nodded. She knew he was right. She reached for the door again, but this time, she didn't feel the urge to leave quickly. Instead, she turned back to him with a softer expression. Can I ask you something now? She said. Noah smiled. Of course. Emily hesitated only a moment. Would it be okay if we talked again soon? Not about deep things, just talked. Maybe coffee. Maybe a walk. Something simple. A bright warmth spread across Noah's face, though his voice stayed calm. I would like that, he said. More than you know. Emily felt her heart open a little wider. She stepped toward the door and pushed it open. Cool night air swept gently against her face. Before she walked out, she looked back one last time. Noah stood there in the warm light of the community center, watching her with quiet hope. Good night, Emily, he said softly. She held his gaze for a heartbeat longer than usual. Good night, Noah, she whispered. She stepped outside, letting the door close behind her. But this time, the moment didn't end with her walking away, not really. Because for the first time in a long time, she didn't leave something behind. She carried something with her. Something small. Something warm. Something growing. As she walked to her car under the soft glow of the streetlights, Emily placed a hand over her chest. She wasn't used to this feeling, this gentle pull toward something new. But she welcomed it. She knew the future was uncertain. She knew fear could return. She knew nothing was guaranteed. But she also knew this. Tonight, she stayed. And that was the beginning. Not of a promise. Not of a perfect ending. But of a story she wasn't afraid to keep walking toward. A story she wasn't ready to walk away from.